Hey, everybody, welcome to the Thursday show. You know what time it was because it's Thursday. Well, actually, it's not Thursday everywhere, is it? But I'm going to let some of my guests fill you in on that. Or, sorry, the panelists fill you in on that. I'm joined tonight by Adam Camilleri.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, it is 11 a.m. on the dot on my Friday morning.
Well, welcome to the weekend for you and Allan Bajramovic.
What's up, everybody? Adam, you're
Uh,
in the future?
I am in the future. It is not as good as you think. Yeah.
I don't know, man. Getting close to Friday does seem awful alluring right now. Well,
That's
welcome to
fair.
the Thursday show on the Frontline Gaming Network. My name is Paul Murphy. We're going to run down all the events coming up this weekend. Actually, we're going to run down one major event coming up this weekend that we want to talk about. We want to talk about what's changed from the meta from the ACO that just happened this past weekend. Who won? If we were right about any of the shots that we called for, who was going to podium and come out do well that weekend. And we have a new segment we're going to introduce later on. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good show, and thank you so much, everybody who supported us on our first try. We're not new to this kind of thing, but it's a lot more extra moving parts. And Alan, of course, he's like the baby of the group. Never been anywhere. No one knows who he is. Just literally just a mystery man. And we're happy to introduce somebody, as unknown as Alan to the community.
I'm really happy to be here, everyone. Thank you guys for having me. I really like getting these glasses in my swag bag. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
We're going to talk about
Lovely.
the Onslaught Grand Tournament coming up in Tampa, Florida this weekend. There are of course, some big name players there, and some folks you might not have heard about. We're going to discuss a little bit about their list, and maybe, see if we can do a little theory crafting about why they took what they took.
Yeah, there's some interesting lists coming out this weekend. We're expecting, I think Alan's on board with me, we're expecting to see some pretty seismic shifts. Maybe not in the strengths of the factions. Like, no one, I think, expects Drukhari to get knocked off the upper echelon of the power rankings, but we're going to see a bit of a reshuffle, especially in the kind of A tiers and the S tiers as well. And yeah, what do you reckon we're going to see, Alan?
I mean, we got some stuff from BCP already. We're going to go through a couple lists, and I agree with you. Yeah, Dark Eldar is definitely going to remain on S tier, but we got Mechanicum slowly coming in. Let's see which guys out there or gals have the model count for that Mechanicum army, because the new hotness of Mechanicum is going to require quite a few models.
Yeah, it's going to be. Sorry,
Before we jump into that, though, how do we do with the ACO picking?
Some better than others.
Come on. Did you see a Death Guard in the top 8? Did you? How sure was I on that?
I didn't, and I owe you something for that because I felt strong that they had the tools.
I think the number one Death Guard player is in 33rd place or something like that.
Hey, 33rd still respectable. That's top 10%.
But is that still 5-1 for that many players?
I didn't actually look. I'm not sure if it went 5-1. I think it went 4-2 potentially, but you could be right. I mean, at that level, it could be a 5-1 for sure.
Through the power of
checking facts on the internet, which my dad hates.
Yeah,
by the way.
Jesse Melvin, Death Guard, Jungle Foxes is his team in 33rd position with 2 losses. He went 97 in his first round, straight to the moon. Then he went 64, another 97, a 95, 85, and a 59. Pretty good scores, realistically, especially for those 2 losses.
Showing. A little bit of a stumble.
Really showing.
But that could have been anything. I'm still going to be looking to them to perform a little bit better, especially as things evolve. But we'll see if that plays out. That's going to be fun to track over the course of these shows. Again, if you haven't already or didn't know, we're coming each and every week on Thursdays to talk about this kind of stuff, and look forward to you coming along in this journey with us. Thanks for folks that are already coming in the chat. No matter I think where you're talking to us, we might be able to see it. So let us know, if you also made some predictions and how you did as we talk about some of these things. Going into this next event here. So what are we going to see? We know we have some numbers provided by BCP, but what are people taking? Is the Drukhari meta over? Is this about to part and let the Adeptus Mechanicus shoot to the moon? What's happening? What are we going to see? What are players taking?
So I'm going to go out on a limb and say admech isn't making a giant splash yet. From the events that I've seen coming up over the next weekend, there isn't a huge amount of admech players. There's only 3 in attendance in this 50 player event-ish on the weekend of the Onslaught Grand Tournament in Tampa, Florida. Now, I'm heading over to Alan. Why do you think we aren't seeing just a wholesale pivot into admech already?
Yeah, they're hobbying. Just let them hobby.
I was about to say, yeah. And Paul, you're having that struggle yourself. You're building up an admech army, and it's not the easiest thing in the world, is it?
Let me say that, not painted yet. It's we'll get there. But yes, that is exactly right. There is a little bit of hobby like it, but we'll see this. Like that's why you saw, the last edition G Sealer cults took a little bit to get up to speed for a while because people had to build all those models and stuff. And while I think if you could still get most of the units in the admech book are good, but the best and efficient ones, people might need a little bit of time to get it going. But was that a struggle for the folks that we're seeing? What are they taking? Do we know what's in their list?
Yeah, so we've got a couple of their lists pulled up. I'll just quickly run through the rest of the field. I just did some quick and dirty stats on the field in attendance for this. I think it's a 48 player GT 5-rounder, 7 Drukhari. So still 7 Drukhari players out of the 48. They're not being dropped. People aren't just dropping them like they're hot and running away. They're still phenomenally potent, phenomenally powerful, and they're going to stay that way. Like I said, 3 admech, 1 Sisters player, which I find is very interesting. We're probably going to talk about that. And I've got their list here to speak to also. 6 Necrons, so only 1 less than Drukhari, still being a very prolific and well-taken faction. 2 Death Guard and 13 Marines. And then there's like 1 Tyranid, 1 here, there, 1 Knight player, etc. Still 13 Marines. Which is it still is huge. The fact that they're almost double every other faction in presentation, not Imperium, just Marines. And I think that's very interesting. 6 Necrons as well is one I find quite spicy also. Some people are saying that they have some decent play in their horde style of play is not that bad. Into
That ground pound, that silver tide type. Just I'm going to score all the points. There's nothing you can do. You're probably never going to kill a unit, and let me just exist. Let me reanimate my way to first place.
And if you go like for like, a lot of people, I've seen a bunch of admech builds coming out. I'll hit this over to Allan to give us some analysis in a minute. But a lot of the admech builds I'm seeing right now pivot and built around, it's somewhere between 60 and 80 of their toughest 3 infantry models, that being a combination of Rangers and Vanguard, 20-man blocks. And if they go like for like with Necrons, there's a lot of over and under spill on those overlapping buffs that admech have that can be stretched quite badly by the 5+ invulnerable save and the 4 or 5+ get back up, which can make things quite awkward for them when they're allocating shots. I think some people are already looking at that as possibly this is giving Necrons a new lease on life, because I think that they found the Space Marine and Death Guard and then Drukhari meta that we were in quite stagnating for their builds. But Allan, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, you brought up some really good points. To rebuttal or give my opinion on the event, I think, the Dark Eldar are there because they're still S tier. They're still the top, regardless of the FAQ. The Mechanicum numbers are typically low. Mechanicum has a high barrier of entry given financial commitment to the army. And then also the new rules are really cool. And I bet you a lot of people are trying to hobby and get ready for them. Sisters is most likely low also because they're trying to get ready for their new codex. Things are changing a lot for Sisters in terms of what you're taking. And some of the new models are really some of the must takes or auto takes I would consider. So I think they're probably prepping for that. And I'm pretty sure this tournament isn't using new Sisters rules. As far as Necrons go, Necrons and Eldar are like 2 armies, and I would say I would kind of put Orcs in that category that have a very loyal fan base. And if this area just has a high density or a concentration of Necron players, that's probably why you're seeing a high level of players playing Necrons. I still think they're pretty much a gatekeeper army. Any really good player is going to play around them through movement and other uses. And yes, there is probably a good Necron Horde build army, but it's extremely boring to play in my opinion. And I'd rather just do anything else than play that, to be honest. But yeah, that's my opinion of the event for the most part.
Well, jump back in. I've just opened up BCP, which anybody at home can do and have a look at some of these lists. I'm just going to pull up 2 of the Adeptus. I pulled up a Custodes list by.
while you're doing that, Seth, the Mad Doc, says that he predicted he would go 4-2 at the ACO, and he did, just missing out on top Orcs to Ben Jurek. Yeah, that's pretty cool. The faction awards at these things are also nice to compete from, especially when there's so many folks. And then Mike Holstein echoes the fact that pilots matter, and they absolutely do in every list. Don't count out anything. As far as like you still got to move these models around, regardless if they're S tier or what have you.
We've actually just looking at this event now. I've actually had 2 of the Adeptus Mechanicus players. So the Cult Mechanicus players have dropped. So now it's only 1 in attendance, and this is his list. It is Mr.
They got to go hobby. They have to hobby.
Yeah, exactly. It's Mr. Travis Hill from Cigar City Gaming. He's opening up with a Lucius, 4 Joys, got a Dominus and a Manipulus, 20 Rangers, 20 Vanguard.
He's got the model.
Exactly. That's why he's dropped.
I think the other 2 guys dropped and gave them their models, so he can get 1 army.
they had a
It's all
binary
for the
argument,
machine
and he was
god.
like, I am the dominant
Yeah.
Omnissiah here. It's got 10 infiltrators, 5 rust stalkers, both units that I'm very happy with to see on the table again. And it's got a Mars, what is it? Looks like a Mars Outrider. He's got a 10 Corpuscari, 10 Fulgurites, 2 units of 2 Ballistari each, so that's 4 Ballistari, and then a single, all with las cannons. That's 5 of them in us across 3 squads. 5 Taraxi, 8 Cerberus Raiders. I say that again. That's this many guys. It's 8 and 1 Dune Rider. I like this list. I think this list is strong. I think it's good. I think it's well rounded. I think it might be trying to do too much, but the proof
Got
will
a
be in
lot
the
of
pudding.
threats. I'm surprised
got
to
a
not see
lot
a
of stuff.
marshal in there. I mean, I think the marshal helps set some of those troops off. And that's kind of
Apologies.
surprising.
He actually does. As soon as you said that, I realized I forgot.
I was actually going to say he has to have a marshal in there, right?
Yeah. I forgot to read out the HQ for the Outrider, and yeah, it is a marshal. But Allan, what do you make of this list? Is this what you expect to see from admech, or what?
Did I miss it, or does he have the chickens? Admech and names for me are terrible. I just call them chickens.
He's got 5 chickens, 2 squads of 2, and a single.
And what are they equipped
That's
with?
the Ballistari.
All las cannons.
All las cannons. Okay, I like
Einstrider
that.
Ballistari, boys.
I think it's good. I think he is probably trying to do too much. I'd probably like to see some more priests potentially. But I think it's a really, really good transition army, and he has the models. So I love the infantry. The 60 infantry is exactly where you need to start with the new admech book. You begin there and you build from there.
I'm seeing a lot of things that make me think that this gentleman is doing some experimentation. A unit of 10 infiltrators, a unit of 5 rust stalkers. Probably just hasn't played those in like 4 years, so he's giving them a crack again to see how they feel. The same thing for the sky stalkers. And the Taraxi, with the flechette carbines, not playing the flamer chickens, the flamer boys, and the 8 Cerberus Raiders, or possibly even 9 if I'm not counting the Alpha. That unit with Mars is a sneaky, amazing good sniper, guys. It actually pops off and has good odds with Wrath of Mars to kill a 6 wound character. And so he's probably, what I'm reading here is this gentleman's doing some experimentation. If I had to read between the lines, he's trying to hone in what his playstyle wants to be. Because 2 units of 10 unit 10 Corpuscari, unit 10 Fulgurites, unit 10 Infiltrators, a big unit of Raiders. They're all these kind of things that could become a homogenous whole. Like you could take 3 of any of those and it would make this list possibly better or more heavily skewed into this meta. But I like what it is. I think it's good experimentation. It's what I expected to see from people getting their first GT games in with a new codex as well.
I think you're spot on.
Yeah, agreed. So I think he will come away with some decisions. Oh, this one didn't do as well. I could sub in some other things, but that's one of the great, I think, points about the admech book is that you can find homes for your points. You don't have a bunch like none of those things are useless. Like those can all be effective and deadly and get work done for him, or just be body scoring points. And I think after this, you're right. He'll have a whole new perspective on a couple of those units and where to beef up in some other things. Will he need 6 more Ballistari? Will he go with more transports? And I think that's Allan, you mentioned that you start with 60 troops, and I think that is it kind of works out to where you could have a group of 20 or you could have a 10 and then a transport. And does that be what you shift to? 4 or 5 Dune Striders and then 40 or 50 troops instead of 60 to 80.
Could be.
Do we want to? I know there's a list that our good man Allan wants to talk about from a Swedish RTT. It's a 5-round RTT over in lovely Sweden. Has some big names in attendance. There's a gentleman with a list there that I think Allan wants to talk to.
Yeah, no, good friend, Daniel Hesselberg, captain of Team Sweden for a decade, is playing. And I think the one year he wasn't captain, he was like pseudo captain. He basically made someone just do all of his work, and he's like, "You're a captain, I swear, but I'll do pairings. I'll make sure I pick the team. I'm like, "You're basically captain." He's running a Dark Eldar list, and I felt like everyone was talking about how the Atlantic City Open was a bubble for Dark Eldar, and it's kind of over, and they're not as powered. And I think we saw Nick Nadavati already playing a Dark Eldar list that's pretty much built for the future. And I think this list right here with Daniel Hesselberg in the event, he's got a Archon with the blade and Ancient Evil Husk Blade as well, and he upgraded it. He has a Homunculus, a Succubus. He's got the beefed up Succubus with the Bloodglaive. He's got the Warriors, the unit of Racks, a unit of Witches, a Grotesque unit, an Incubi unit of 9, a Mandrake unit, a Hellion unit, a Scourges unit, a Kronos, 3 Taloses, 2 Raiders, and a Venom. And what I took away from this list is he basically has kind of everything. It's almost
Everything.
like a Dark Eldar Highlander army. And I just
That's
read it.
tough.
Yeah.
That's tough. We were going to talk. I think one of the topics we're going to talk about is like tournament preparedness or something. A little bit later on. And is it? Are you making it worse for yourself when you have that kind of potpourri of units?
It like no redundancy. So he's got to really be on top of everything, but he really plays it. I assume because I know him pretty well. He plays it like a toolbox, right? So he's got like a screwdriver and a hammer and pliers and a wrench for all different kinds of problems. And he's trusting himself as a general to basically be able to know when to use which tool in the scenario. And I still think we're going to see Dark Eldar be very strong in the meta. And I think the new Dark Eldar, the bunch of racks, bunch of grotesques and raiders with flamers, the new version, this version, the one that Daniel Hesselberg is piloting at this event, and other ones I think we'll see in the future are not only going to be powerful, but they'll be fun. They'll be fun to play. They'll be fun to play against. They won't be as, I would say, brutal of a game as the Flamer game, which was pretty much almost like you weren't even interacting with your opponent.
Interactions we bring up,
Raider would fly up, and it's like a million flame shots. You're dead. Okay, cool. See ya.
Yeah, exactly right. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things I want to hone in on this list, and probably don't have the time to give it the justice it deserves because this is a bold statement. I see a list like this, and I see either somebody who has no idea what they're doing or has every single base covered.
It's like a Devastator squad with the one guy's got a last cannon, and
exactly,
and a multi-multi, and a heavy bolter, and a plasma cannon. Like, oh man.
Yeah. I look at this is the first time I've seen more than a 5-man unit of Incubi on any tournament list. He's got a full unit of 9 that doesn't have Drazar, which means he's hunting something. He's got a purpose in mind, and I think that the same thing goes for the Reavers. There's a unit of 5 Reavers in here, and a unit of only 9 or 10 Hellions. Usually I see sub 12 or more Hellions because that's the profile you want to get to auto killer, or reliably auto killer a 4-wound character on the flyby. You go for 12 because on the 5s you kill a dude. Only 10. He's got a plan. He's cooking stuff. And interesting, he's gone with blasters on the Scourges as well. Hasn't gone for the Heat Lancers. We've just seen gentlemen like Mr. Sean Naden do to great effect. He's pivoted into the blasters. I personally prefer the blasters. I think they're good. And he's also doubled down on the blasters by taking them on all his Talos as well. Hasn't gone for the Haywires or the Splinter Cams or anything like that. And he's only got 3 transports, which I think is the big deal here. He's only got 3 transports. And I think that's because, some people have waved this flag, especially when they saw the meta for ACO, which we've just come from. Everyone and their dog is double and triple downing on stuff to just pop raiders. So what do? Take all the air out of their sails, pivot onto the ground forces, and this, I think, is a good start.
Yeah, and my money is that Daniel takes this event. I know it's a small tournament in Sweden. I think it's a 3-rounder, but in Sweden, it's a lot of the best players are at the event in the area. Yeah. It's quite difficult to get to some of the tournaments over there. So it's going to be really impressive. I would be shocked if he doesn't win.
Yeah, a good friend of mine, Rickard Nilsson's in attendance with admech, and we don't quite have time to double and have a check out of his list. I think we've got too much to cover in this one, but he's a gentleman to watch as well. And the thing about Sweden is they've got a Shark Tank. Like everything that they go to is a Shark Tank, is a murderer's row of competitive players. And the bigger the event, the more it's almost the inverse of a lot of what I think of Australian events or maybe some American events, where the bigger the event, you think maybe you're gonna have an easier run because there's just less density of competitive players. The thing is about Europe, if people who are willing to travel to events in Europe are murderers, are absolute guns. If you're willing to go from France to Sweden for an event, chances are you think you got a chance of winning it, and you're probably right.
That team that we're talking about, or the country, their organization has come over to the States to play games. This is they're great players and great guys.
Yeah, absolute stellar gentlemen. I've had a bunch of interactions with Rickard. Of course, we have our lovely Neil, the head judge for the WTC. Amazing, wonderful man, a wonderful friend to so many as well. But what else do we want to talk about next? We want to hone in on some of these Onslaught lists.
I don't know if we actually picked our list or our top picks for the podium coming up for the tournament in Tampa. Like what we've discussed, what we're going to see, and maybe what has changed slightly. But is anything going to be able to knock Drukhari off the top?
Oh yeah,
or can we pick another
tournament? Yeah, John Lennon will win that Onslaught tournament.
There we go.
100%.
You need to get a big shoe. Can you just hold up a shoe?
40K. There's 2 things in 40K that are absolute facts. They're the Sammy Sosa effect and the ugly duckling effect. And the ugly duckling effect is when you are at the dance and your buddy Nick, your buddy Brad, your buddy Sean, your buddy Siegler all get to dance with a chick, and you sit there on Sunday and you have no one to dance with, and you missed out. And he sat there all Sunday as the ugly duckling going, if I just got more battle points. Anyone in this man's path at this event is done. They're done. This is the ugly duckling. It's a fact. It's proven. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's winning.
I want to see a fake encyclopedia page with the ugly duckling 40k Wikipedia or something.
Well,
I want you to pick up a big shoe. We need to get props. We need to have Adam's lock of the event. I pick up a big lock and be like, this is who I think's going to win. Allan needs a big shoe for his shoe in, and Paul needs something as well. Like,
this is 100% lock.
Well, this is what I'm looking at with the amount of lists. Like we mentioned, there's only one admech list. There's only one sisters list. There are only two Death Guard lists. Those. We talk about the ACO. Although I think Death Guard are stronger than they represented, and I think this may be something that Allan and I disagree on.
I feel like John Lennon could play 3,500 points of Death Guard and still win.
What? There's no, again, I'm not discounting that, but I think that there just may not be enough of the list of those particular factions they're represented to truly represent how good they are right now. Is that but is the fact that there aren't that many being represented also an indication of maybe how good that they aren't? Like where is which one of these things are true or could be both true? Allan, what do you think about that?
I mean, you definitely have a good point, right? Like the status quo needs to be challenged, and when it happens, I think we all go, oh, maybe they're not as good as we really thought. So I think you have a really good point there. The RTTs probably don't have the attendance or maybe the caliber of lists that you would expect to dethrone, someone like a John Lennon or someone like a Brad Chester at some of these events. Like that is true. That could be a possibility. I think for this one though, I think it's really just about that just sheer level of just being left out at the ACO, and it's gonna be curtains.
You think he's gonna be ferocious? He's not like a 99 a 99 out of 100 on the scoreboard is a fail.
I don't know if you've ever played like Devil May Cry. Like he's gonna be smiling and nice on the outside, but on the inside, it's just he's just murdering. It's just kill streaks, like just across the entire screen of his chest. Like it's just.
I'm just picturing a John Lennon like at halftime, at the end of day 6, like sad Keanuing with a sandwich on the outside park bench, like at ACO.
I'm telling you, that's what it is. I mean, whoever plays them this week, just have fun. You're gonna get smashed. Just have a good time. It is what it is.
Let me run through his list because it's not his ultras. It's not what he took to ACO.
Oh, it's way better.
It's better. It's worth.
Let's hear it. Let's hear the list
for different reasons. This is signaling that John has been planning for the future as well. He's been planning for the paradigm to shift and to move with it. He's taking Deathwatch. He's taking pure Deathwatch. Starts off with Lieutenant in Reaver armor. He's got a Primaris Captain, an upgraded Techie for the auto heal, a unit of Incursors, a Proteus kill team broken up into half shotguns, one Vanguard vet, and then the other half bikers. So he splits that into the shotguns being one, and then the OBSEC bikes being the other element that can jump around and do a bunch of stuff. And he's got 3 versions of that essentially. He's got 3 squads of Proteus kill teams of the same order. Then he's got 3 Redemptor Dreads, all with Icaruses and Plasmas and little Onslaughts, and then 2 Contemptors with the twin Volkites. That's it. That's all she wrote, baby. It is tight. It is tidy. It is deadly.
That's all you need. This list has reroll 1s to hit, reroll 1s to wound. This has a tome for just general reroll wounds. This has a 5+ invulnerable aura. Everything in the list is core. Everything benefits off auras and core. It puts out over 100 shots of firepower a turn, and it just doesn't care. Like this list is going to mow people down.
So the only real pivot I've seen here is that he's decided that he doesn't need to redeploy anymore. That he's either decided he's a good enough player that doesn't need to redeploy, which is why he had the 2 Invictors and was playing Ultramarines to begin with. He was like, I need to be flexible, I need to be malleable, I need to be able to, before turn 1, before I have the chance of going second on turn 1 and losing the game, I need to be able to change the board state. So he's decided he doesn't need that. He has some things in here that can redeploy and do some stuff during the game, e.g. of an ilk of whatever the staff is, the Veil of Darkness is for Necrons. Similar thing you can do here with the Beacon Angelus. But yeah, so he has some redeploy shenanigans. But he's decided he's a good enough player, or he doesn't need it, or there is more player to be had down the road. I really love the 5+ invuln bubble being placed onto 5 healable, auto healable dreadnoughts. It's crazy to me. I was playing with 3 of those Redemptors early on and casting the spell to give them the 5+ invuln, and it was getting denied, and I was getting played with, and it sucked. It really sucked. He just has this 5+ invuln, on all these lads, and he hasn't got any psychic powers. He can take a Border Witch if he has to now. The shackles are off. Freedom. He's got freedom. John Lennon is free.
He's
Nicole
going to be
Kidman
Oprah. He's going to be like, you get 3 wounds. You get 3 wounds. You get 3 wounds.
You ever see that meme of Nicole Kidman after she finalized her divorce or something from Tom Cruise, and she's just like dancing down the street, and he's like, yeah, freedom, from the Drukhari Menace, because he's planning for the future. I see a lot of stuff in this list that makes me think he's thinking about admech, he's thinking about sisters and what he needs to do there. You talked about the density. You talked about the density of shots being, and I think that's the key factor. You need a lot of shots to clear off all those Lucius bodies. Need a lot of shots to clear off all those sisters bodies, and he's starting to double down on those already. Yeah, exactly.
And he's got mortals in there too, and he's got a lot of really cool strats with Death Guard that are all situational. The better pilot you are, the better you're going to be with a Death Guard army. Death Guard is actually harder to play because it's situational, so much of it. So you have to decide when to actually implement it. But really, at the end of the day, it's the ugly duckling syndrome. On top of that, he's a mathematician. He's going for all the rerolls in the world. He wants every reroll I can get. And that's really the direction he's going in. I really anyone in his way, I just feel bad for him.
Fair.
Sounds like he's got the tools. And you mentioned the single sisters list. I mean, again, the codex did change how they played. You can't do some of the same tricks in the same way. But are they still a contender? We know they were taking. I mean, we weren't having a ton of events, a few months ago, but they were incredibly lethal, dangerous, could come out of nowhere, and basically wipe out units. Do they still have that power? And then does this list have those types of tools still?
Do we know if the Florida event is using the New Sisters list, the New Sisters book? I would assume they're not, because it's not yet like official enough, but I don't know. And based on the list that we have, I would also assume not.
Oh, exactly right. I was about to say, based on this list, either this gentleman has not had a chance to get the codex and pivot into it, or they're not using it.
It's a last hurrah. I think it's a last hurrah. I think he read the new book and he's like, "Oh my god, let me play with these models one more time."
Better use all these. Better use these rules real quick.
This isn't going to be a bad list come Sunday, Monday morning when he has to use the new codex. But it's obvious. It's obvious he isn't taking some of the new strength options.
What's in the list? Do you have a handy we can run down?
Yeah. So this is Mr. Daniel Smith. He's the only Sisters players in attendance. So I hope he smashes it. Starts off with a no Force Orc slot. He has a 1 unit of 2 Death Cult Assassins, and there's Kyria Draxus as well. And that shows me that he's playing with the old one. In the new codex, you don't have a need to take Kyria anymore. You can just save the 85 points, take some other stuff. He has a Canoness. So 2 Canoness and a Palatine, all ticked up with what you'd expect. 4 units of Battle Sisters, 1 Preacher, 3 units of Repentia, a unit of 9, a unit of 8, unit of 5. I love that spread personally. 1 unit of 5 Zeraphim, 1 unit of 10 Zephyrim, 1 unit of 5 Seraphim.
The other rules.
Exactly. You see these things? Yeah. With 2 double hand flamer sisters in the Zephyrim squad. And then he's got 1, 2, 3 units of Retributors, 3 multi-melters apiece, 2 cherubs apiece, and a simulacrum apiece. And then he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rhinos with a hunter killer missile on each. Yeah, this feels to me like the old book.
Yeah, I can respect that. We'll give him a good send off.
Yeah. And look, this is a good Sisters list. Like,
it's fantastic. I mean, it is all chips in the middle of the board, though. There was a period in 2010 where there was a Thunderwolf Cav army for Space Wolves. Paul's probably familiar. And it was an all chips in the board type of army. Players who played this guy playing the Sisters list, they have as much self-confidence as Joe Exotic's, straight boyfriend. That's how much confidence they have, okay? Like, they're everything in the middle. I'm going to crush you, and you're going to die. Or I'm going to die, and I'm going to have a fun time no matter what. So this is just pure, I got this. Hold my beer.
Yeah, it's got all the bombs, it's got all the tech, it's got all the slap, it's got all the potency. Now, back to you and Paul and Allan, what do you think comes out of this list in order to alter it? Is this get a wholesale change? Right now, this is I think this is a battalion. Yes,
I didn't hear any battalion. Dominion squads, so
Well, yeah,
they're going in.
True that.
Spot on, man. The amount of rhinos. Do you think Sisters are going to have 5 rhinos in their list come Monday morning?
5 probably not. 5 is too much of a dilution of points, I think. And then you're better off like getting a couple of immolators. I mean, my personal opinion is that a couple of immolators, a couple of Dominion squads, and then you could basically just fill in the rest around that.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think the Zephyr took quite a big of a hit, in my opinion. I mean, they did get some buffs in some areas, but I believe they lost the ability to just re-roll wounds.
Yeah.
That's
They
a
did. Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
big deal. So I mean that's really why you take them. The re-roll wounds with the one wound stratagem, and when they got their swords upgraded, they were like, oh my god! Like currently for this event that he's going to, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
So I think that's one hit. The Repentia also got a little nerfed too. So I mean, I do expect to see this list change quite a bit, and I also expect
Mm.
to see the new sisters models very much shown
Yeah.
in the book.
Paragon war suits, the
Yeah,
Sacrosants,
especially
those are.
the HQ character in the giant suit. I mean,
Morven,
I
yeah.
put a lot of
he's
Yeah.
thought into it too. I think the halberds are
amazing.
better than the maces. I think the damage two
Yeah.
on the maces are a bit of maybe a trap. You know, you think, oh,
I would
it's just
agree.
great, but I think you're going to get a lot
Mm.
more damage through with a halberd. So if anybody out there is hobbying, getting ready, take that for what it's worth. You know, do
Mm.
your own
I
experience.
I think it's kind of walking the line of what you wanted to do. If you're taking a min squad that's just there for bodyguard duty, keep them as cheap as you can. If you actually want them, if you're actually taking a 10-man, you want to get some work done, I think the halberd's the way to go. And you have source of multi damage from others. Like Repentia is still your best source of 2 damage melee, and trying to make this unit do that, what the Repentia is good at doing, is just diluting it too much. Split them up, make them have different roles, hunt
Yeah.
different things.
Bobby's asked in the chat is like how many transports is too many for sisters, and that's an interesting question. You know what is too many, but I think you have to look about what you're going to do. At some point, you are robbing yourself of other units that will, I think, be able to get things done. You think two? I think two is right where it's at. Uh, but but at the same time, I think you could make a case for three as long as you're transporting another Dominion squad. I don't
I
think
was,
you
I
want
was
to
about
do
to
anything
say I can see almost every list having 2 units of DOMs. Hence, I think every list should have 2
Two
transports.
transports. Yeah,
And
I would agree with
yeah,
that. I would agree with that as well. I think that's pretty sound in the new book. But it also depends on what kind of player you are. So if
it's
you're more
true. Yep.
if you tend to lean more aggressive, then more rhinos isn't bad. If you tend to lean more defensive, then I would definitely focus on less rhinos because
well.
then you're wasting points in a place where you could be more efficient elsewhere.
Yep.
Do
Good
our
call.
armies packing things that stack up well against rhinos? I think the answer is yes, and so you don't want to overcommit, and then you've
Mm,
got 500-600 points
yeah.
just kind of hanging out there, getting ready to get. Because the same things that people are prepared to fight Terminators, they're prepared to fight uh, um,
And they're
Raiders. You know,
they're prepared to pop raiders as well. The same
yeah.
stuff that
I
pops the
think that's
raiders is
going
going
to
to pop the
slightly peak,
rhinos.
though. I think we're going to see a lot less Raiders given the new FAQ. I think we're going to see a lot less Raiders. I think we're going to see more Blackheart. I think we're going to see more redeployment of Dark Eldar. I think we're going to see more bikes, more Hellions, more other things. So I do think that might come down. I think admech is going to become the top S tier, and
That's
it's going
it.
to be an 80 model count walking army for the
Yeah.
most part. So I do think things will have to tend to go that way, slightly skewed. And then once you see orcs hit, and you have a bunch of guys at toughness 5 on the board, then it's
Mm.
going to skew even more that way. So at that point in time, which I don't know, is like a month and a half away potentially, you might start seeing rhinos and light armored vehicles having a little bit more of a glory day
Well,
than
and
they do
sisters
currently right
have
now.
something that a lot of other armies don't have, and that is an invulnerable save on
Mm.
their vehicles. And
Which
the
is really
balance,
good.
and your point about the admech with the Ballastar, they on an off day could pick up 2 or 3 rhinos just with a
Mm.
5-man unit, and
Yes.
I mean maybe 6, whatever. But with that invulnerable save, it might keep you in the game a little bit longer, and maybe we talk about the redundancy and stuff it may keep your strategy alive a little bit longer because of that invulnerable save, and so you could
Mm.
maybe build around it. But I still think that 2, 3 tops because you're robbing points from other critical things that are going to do things for you.
So you guys mentioned orcs there for a moment, and there's an orc list from the Swedish RTT I wanted to pull out. I unfortunately don't have this gentleman's name, but full props to you. You're a legend. I just want to quickly run this down to see what you guys think, because this isn't what I think we're going to see from orcs
I think you're
come
talking
their
about,
next
is it Matei
codex.
Thor?
Possibly, yeah.
Okay.
I think he's the only orc player in attendance there. But I just didn't. I forgot to copy paste it in. He's playing Evil Sons. He has a big mech with KFF, of course. He has a warboss on Warbike, what you expect, Killy Claw. He has a warboss on foot with what you expect as well. 1 unit of 30 boys, another unit of 30 boys, a unit of 10 Gretchen, 3 units of commandos, a pain boy, 3 single death copters, 1 truck, and a custom freaking stomper. It's got the belly gun, it's got a lifter dropper, and the def cannon and the super guard, all that stuff. I know Allan's a big fan of this. He's the one who told me to pull it up and said, "Adam, we need to talk about this. Tell us the story about this list."
I just think it's fun. I think it's awesome. I wish the Stompa was cheaper. I know my good friend of the show, Val Heffelfinger, would support he would support the Stompa. I think he'd like that it exists and that it's out there. And I love that it's out there. I think it's too expensive. I hope the new book, when it comes out, it's just magically cheaper. That'd be awesome. Because I don't think it's super efficient. I think it's really fun.
Nah.
I do think the lift to droppa is just amazing against transhuman and so much fun to just watch people with transhuman cry about it. It just makes it just brightens my day. So I do love that. But it's a good list. It scores secondaries really well. I mean, is it squishy? Yes. Is it going to die pretty easy? Yes. Will anything be there on turn 5? Probably not. But will he have fun? Yes, he will.
So the thing that scratches my head about this is that it's Evil Sons. I would have thought you would MSU around this guy as Death Skulls and just take as many MSU OBSEC
100%.
units as possible.
He's there for the love, right? So
He's there,
jam.
He got the memo from GW. His whole army's painted red and yellow, so he can't. There's nothing he can do now. He's got to be Evil Sons. He didn't email for approval. So
where's my big lock? That thing's a lock. Yeah,
I got to keep us on track here. We got something I actually want to talk about, which is tournament scoring and how your games affect other people, and then we got to get to our new segment, the Fuego Rapido. Later on.
We not have a soundbite for that. We should have a soundbite.
El Fuego. We should. Oh, we definitely need one. But yeah, this is Allan. This is your topic.
Title.
Take it away.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say to the community, I think I've been around for a little bit, not as long as Brad Chester, but for a while. And I was really happy to see that there were no suspect draws round 6 to get people automatically qualified for the top 8. I was looking for those and I didn't see any. So it was really, really cool. And I think, for those who are going to these events, if you're playing friends, if you're playing someone, it's really important coming from someone who understands kind of what the impacts could potentially be to score those things legit. If you really do score an 80-point game against someone and someone scores a 20, do not give them extra points. It really does impact the event. And I was just really happy to see that there was no issues of any kind. The event went really well. I hope it's a reflection of the community as a whole and everyone's just being awesome. And if it's also that Frontline Gaming was really closely looking at all these tables, that's also awesome. But I love to see it. I've seen things in the past at a number of events that I'm not going to name, but I've seen deals made. I've seen all kinds of things for you to get in the top bracket, for you to get in the top 8. And I know we talked about it off air last week. I was curious to see if that would happen. And I'm super glad it didn't happen. So
there is a lot to discuss. Sorry, Paul, you go.
No, go ahead. I was going to say what you're talking about is, and even if it's not intentional or not malicious in a bunch of places, you're talking a little bit about collusion, potential collusion, and that's in these things where all the games matter, and your experience on your table should be the same as the experience as at least in in mechanics as the next table over.
So I feel the need to qualify this for some people at home, possibly. So what you're talking about here is when there's high stakes on the line, and 2 players know that they're both in contention, they're playing each other, and then they make a deal in order for both of them to maintain the potential to progress, rather than knocking one of them out, rather than one of those getting knocked out. What we're not talking about is, say, when a win, a W and an L only matters that you're on the middle tables or lower tables, whatever. This is something I've done. I've been like, I'm already going to win this game. There's no point you not scoring more stuff, so I'm just going to walk off this objective. Doesn't really matter. I haven't made a deal with them. I haven't told them I'm going to do it. I haven't been like, wave the flag, hey, let's make a deal for you getting more points. I've just been like, doesn't cost me anything. I'm not going to get engaged this turn. Whatever. Differential's a bit different now. Who cares? And that's not something that's not something people do with just their friends. That's just something people do out of kindness and respect for each other and kind of respect for the game. But we're talking about progressing into a realm of 40k where that should be questioned, whether it's valid, whether it should be done, and whether it's a behavior we want to continue with, right, Allan?
Yeah, I would argue that even that is not appropriate at some of these big events, especially later in the rounds, and like even mid tables in the beginning, that wouldn't be appropriate, like round 2 or 3.
Absolutely.
If you're in round 6 and you already have 2 losses and you want to do something like that, that's fine. I don't think that's a problem. But if you're round 2, round 4, round 5, and you're letting points go, or you're giving points inappropriately, all that kind of stuff, I just hate to see that stuff. And I know it's happened in the past, and I'm just really happy to. If you think about it, anybody in round 6 that got a draw would have with an undefeated record up until that time, would have instantaneously been in the top 8 just by math. So
Yep.
I'm just glad it didn't happen. Really cool.
Yeah, and so we're not saying that people should always gun for the throat, and by all means, if you can wipe them off the table and you don't wipe them off the table,
as long as you're playing with integrity, get all those points.
Yeah, but we're saying just there's collusion is probably not on, especially if it's between peers or mates, even at any level. It's something we need to start moving away from if we want 40K to genuinely be a competitive, respected sport.
Exactly.
I mean, you see it in games all the time. Cricket has been one that's always over here. It's in the spotlight for bookmakers saying, "Oh, can you just not make 100 runs in this game or whatever it may be, or take a wicket or a shortstop or whatever." And
no one knows what you just said, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I barely know what I just said.
You lost our entire audience.
But it's stuff that happens in sport. This kind of collusion
I just hope take a wicket doesn't get censored. I don't know.
we have spray in the States for crickets. Do you guys not have that in Australia? I'm confused.
No, they run most of our country.
Okay, all right, got it.
Yeah. But yeah, so there needs to be more of a spotlight, more of a discussion about what we do or do not find appropriate with those kinds of things. I'm all for mates just being like, whatever, the points don't matter here, let's just have a good time. And that's not what we're trying to kill off here. We're trying to kill off, or what we're trying to shine a spotlight on, is people deliberately altering what should be the natural course of a game in order to get a desired result to benefit both parties.
Well, look, as we start to cover more of these things, I think explaining, or at least giving some thoughts on what we think the culture of this kind of stuff does, if we want folks to get really involved and take it seriously as we do. So it was, Allan, that was a interesting topic to bring up and something to think about.
Yep.
I'm gonna check with the booth. I don't know if we're ready for the Fuego Rapidos.
Jesus. Do you want to tell people what this segment is?
So I think we're going to put a timer on the clock, or on the screen, and then we're going to run down a list of topics that are on. I got a stage point to this. That's where we're going to do, and then Allan and Adam are going to get a chance to weigh in and fire off their initial thoughts on all these things. Let's go. Let's start with the Tau. Tau, hot or not? Do they have the tools? Was this a fluke? Is it just Siegler, or the Tau really a sleeper power codex?
Tau are terrible. This is Richard Siegler, who literally is part computer, part man, from what I've heard. I don't really know him that well, but that's what I've heard. He lives in a house full of the best 40K players in the world, plays 40K all day, started a business about teaching 40K to people, streams 40K all the time, made his reputation by winning the ITC with Tau. The fact that he won 7 rounds with Tau, he played 1 game of Iron Hands, by the way. Everything else was Tau. And I would argue that Iron Hands list that they brought to LVO basically functioned like Tau.
It was Tau.
It's
in
just
any
Tau.
Other way.
Yeah,
it's
no.
So I think they're better. They're better than people think they are. But this is, if we're going to break it down, they are 10% better than people think they are, and Miss Siegler is the other 90%. Yeah, literally the other 95%.
And they're 147% worse than all Tau players think they are now that Richard went 7-1 or whatever he went.
The best thing Richard had going for himself is the unknown factor of what he was bringing to the table. No one knew how good he was with this. No one knew how good it was on the table, and no one, apart from Nick Nanavati, the guy who beat him, had played more than 1 rep against Tau in all of 9th edition. So literally, he was just like, the fact you don't know what Tau is worth like 30 points in this game, and those 30 points are what I'm going to use to win.
And Nick was probably like, "Oh my God, thank you so much for waking me up at 3 a.m. to play Tau 57
to play
times."
Tau, 700 million times. Because Richard doesn't sleep. He hangs by his feet from the roof.
He's nocturnal. He's like,
oh, he's talking about Blood Angels? He plays Blood Angels?
All right, next one, I think.
Most underrated faction.
Emperor's Children, Noise Marines, and Chaos.
Where's the list? The list? You managed to get one in. Most underrated faction right now. I'm going to go Force of the Hive Mind. I'm going to go the super faction, Force of the Hive Mind.
Okay, you got to qualify this. Why do you think it may be your favorite faction, but why do you think it is underrated?
Because if you're going to play into an MSU meta, which is what Drukhari was, and maybe not what we're going to have in the future, but maybe what Sisters might be also, maybe not admech, they're very well poised to trade. They have a lot of good trading options. They have a lot of good no line of sight options, a lot of shenanigans still in their toolbox. The thing is that point for point, that is inefficient for what they do, which is the difference between, say, them and Drukhari. If like an Acolyte or a hybrid was pointed appropriately upon the Drukhari metrics, that book would still be good. So yeah, I think Forces of the Hive Mind for me.
Emperor's Children, clearly, because you could take a 1,000 point detachment and you can fight everything with them if you know how to play it. And you have another 1,000 points to ally with any of the 57 Chaos and Demon books that you want to pick. And you can make pretty much any really cool army. But yeah, nobody plays them. So they're super underrated because I don't see them anywhere except for my buddy James Carmona on the West Coast, who's been rocking them for a long time now. Longer than me. He's the OG of the army. So,
well, you should check out Australia, brother, because we started that Nah, I'm not. Mr. Matt Morosoli won our Uprising, our 120 player 8-round major this year with 1,000 points of Emperor's Children.
Then he would agree with me.
Absolutely does.
So with the Emperor's Children, though, I guess what pairs the best with them, or if, let's say, if you wanted to, if you're already playing one of the Chaos factions and you want to pivot into it, is it just an easy include? Like you just take, 20 Noise Marines.
Does it go with everything?
And 2 Obliterators. Like it does well with everything.
I mean, it kind of can go with everything because really you're taking 5 fundamental units. You're taking some bikes, you're taking some Terminators, and you're taking some Noise Marines. And those are the 3 main guys. And then you're probably taking a Dark Apostle and you're probably taking a Sorcerer of some kind. So
here's something, and I'll try to make this squeeze into time here, is that a lot of Chaos players, what are they taking right now that they shouldn't be, that they should opt in for Noise Marines?
That's actually a really good question. I think we should pocket that and let me think about it, and I'll come back with a really long
35
answer.
seconds.
Yeah. I mean, well, I think that a lot of the current Chaos players are investing too much probably in Death Guard and taking too much Death Guard currently. I think they could definitely expand their horizons by taking more Noise Marines for some offensive power. I think that, with the new changes to warp time and everything, I think we're going to have to really evaluate the Chaos book, but potentially Drop Claws could be an idea to add on to Emperor's Children. That's not a bad idea. Iron Warriors are a really good add-on to them. So there's a lot of really good things you can add on. But yeah, I think Death Guard right now are really the army that people are
time's
going
up.
towards.
Not going to get that point close. So the biggest FAQ winner. So the FAQ, I think it was kind of like, I don't know if anyone was like super enthused about maybe what the results of that is, and that's not a bad thing for the health of the game. But were there any big winners?
Actually, a really good question.
Actually, it's a good question.
Yeah, I feel like there was no real big winner. No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think some armies got like helped because other armies that were kind of more powerful got a little bit more of a nerf. I mean, nerfing Dark Eldar was a must, so that one is great. That's fantastic. I feel like changing anything for Tau or for Chaos Space Marines was just not necessary. They got hurt for no apparent reason at all. I mean, they could have just made a rule that said you cannot warp time Mortarion, period. You cannot warp time super heavy flyers. And they're done, right? Like Lord of War flyers, right? And they would have solved that problem, but they're like, no one can warp time anyone anymore, unless you're brothers from the same household. But yeah, I don't think really anyone else got a real big buff. I don't know, Adam. Do you feel like anyone did?
I actually feel like Tau got a decent buff in the clarifications to Montcar being now set in stone that they can fall back and still shoot. I feel like that's probably the best clarification that came from that for anybody apart from the nerfs to Drukhari. So if I was going to say anyone was a winner, I'd say it was Tau.
Which is not a big winner because
it's not a big winner. It wasn't huge.
Went from massively. Here
and
here.
The vast majority of people had already ruled it that way anyway. It was just a G-Dub got on board. Sorry, the other big winner was we got a wholesale clarification for fights last and fights first reactions.
Yep. We did.
Interactions. Everyone's a winner.
Everyone's a winner, yeah.
Because you know what I'll say? I will say
have the argument.
I will say up until 9th edition, the start of 9th edition, I started wanting to have initiative back. I didn't care in 8th edition, didn't mind. As soon as we got into all that crap, I was like, initiative's just better than the system now. Like, let's please have initiative back. This is garbage. So it's just you activate, I activate, and then I'll be your first fight first, I fight last, and then you fight first on a Sunday, I fight first in when Saturn's in orbit and Leos are in ascendant on a when the tides are receding. And retrograde. Yeah, in the rich. Yeah, exactly. And it was a menace. It was horrible. And I was like, oh, please
I
clarify
never
this. And
felt
yeah,
like it was
yeah.
that complicated.
I
That's
played
because you're
into
into astrology. You're like an astrology wizard. That's why you feel like it's easy. Every time I talk to
Paul.
Paul, he's
Secretly
like,
follows the zodiac. He tries to give me and Allan palm readings before every session, and
yeah,
he sells crystals on the side,
I
guys.
can
today
already
he
see the future. I
texted
don't even
me.
know why we're talking about this. I already know who's going to win. I'm just trying to play along here.
Is this a death visions of Sanguinius, except it's the zodiac visions of Paul, TPM?
Paul's text this morning, Allan, you're gonna have a great day. The sun's in retrograde. I'm like, what does that even mean? I don't understand.
Anyway,
Alright.
so but I guess when you all this you're lining up all these things, I guess it can get, especially if you're geared to it. Like, what does the Judikar actually do when
Yeah,
you already have the Vexator mask and these
yeah.
things that fight twice and for time's up. Sorry. Best
Rapido.
pre-tournament ritual. I'm going to throw this out to you individually, and then we can debate about what the actual best is. Adam, what is your absolute mandatory pre-tournament ritual if you have one?
A cup of tea and a walk, or a cup of tea and some like literally 10 to 15 minutes of exercise minimum. That's
Wow.
how I do.
I'm assuming that you mean like right before the event, then.
Yeah, the morning of.
Okay.
Exercise? I didn't expect to hear
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah,
It's a walk, Paul. A walk. You said
a walk.
I feel like in the pie graph of where you have exercise, walk is not there. It's not there. But anyways, or maybe it's next to stand. I don't know. It depends on your definition of exercise. My pre-ritual is the day of my pre-ritual. Let's not go over that one on the podcast, but the night before, or the last night I'm in my house. So if I'm flying to the event, the last day I'm in my house, just before the event, and I have my cheat sheet and everything, I try to set up the terrain of the event at my home table behind me right there. And what I do is I basically deploy my army in every single deployment zone. So all 6 missions, 8 missions, 9 missions, I'll just deploy my army once and see what it looks like, given their terrain and given the deployment zone style. It really helps me out because I feel like most players lose the most amount of time in deployment. And I always fly through deployment. People look at me like I'm crazy because I don't even care where you put your models. I hate the change mechanism. I'm kind of old school. I just deploy everything, and I'm like, this is what I'm going to do regardless of what you do, so go ahead.
Yeah,
Nice,
and
solid.
I agree. I do the same thing, but over like the month I'm building my list. Like, say, let's say I'm trying to put stuff together. I won't do it the day before. I'll do it like over a week or two before, and that's only if I'm playing something different that I don't really have the bones or the knowledge of yet. But yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, every event I don't know what I'm playing, so.
Well,
Yeah.
when I decide on what to play, pre-turn ritual, I count my models at least, I don't know, 50 times to make sure they're all making it to the tournament.
Nice.
But then actually the morning of, I hydrate. I know that once things get going, you're kind of prone to maybe not taking the best care of yourself because you're going to time maybe with your games, or your adrenaline starts pumping, and you don't think to, am I getting enough water? Am I, coffee or an energy drink or whatever, and then I typically have like a breakfast bar or something high
So
in
for
protein.
those who are watching this show and you see Paul Murphy at an event in the future, bring him a water. Just bring him a water while he's playing. Bring him something to drink while he's playing. Get him something. If you get him an alcoholic beverage, make sure it's accompanied by a water so he can stay hydrated.
Will not hurt my
Literally,
feelings. But
I
I
want
think
a parade of people going past his table, bringing him so many drinks he can no longer play the
Yeah,
game.
the next Paul Murphy
Just-
tournament, if he's not wasted by the second round, I'm disappointed in everybody that watches this show.
we're
We will
required to
call
talk
you
about
out.
this for the time's up. We're done with this one.
Rapido.
So this is a point of contention. So takesy backsies. So in a tournament, when you're playing, there's a flow of information and stuff between you and your opponent, and that could be over the course of the game. They might make a small error, you might make a small error. What's your stance on allowing them to rewind that, to go back on that? Does that tie into any type of things like collusion that we were talking about before, or is it just good sportsmanship to allow this kind of thing? Adam, start with you.
I think I always like to define it at the start of the game. Say, hey man, I'm pretty much okay with all takebacks within reason. If you do not want to have takebacks, you let me know right now, and we can play that game. I actually don't mind which game we play. I just want to know at the start. I want to know what to expect from the game before we start rolling dice. Whether there's going to be some, none. What's within reason. I'm okay if you're in the same phase. I'm pretty much okay with everything. if we're in the same phase. If you forget your psychic phase and we're in the shooting phase. If you forget your psychic phase and we're in the morale phase, probably no. That's probably a step too far. But I think within reason, I will always allow it as long as it's a game where we've agreed to it.
Allan,
Yeah,
what you got?
I'm the exact same way as Adam. I would go even further on my part. I typically always do takebacks for people. Whenever anyone wants to do a takeback, I'm totally fine with it, regardless of what it is or how far we've gotten. I mean, if we're like 4 or 5 turns, I want to take back turn 1, that's too far. Obviously.
I would like to redeploy my army, please, because I don't have any figures left.
Possible. Yeah, if it's possible, I'm totally fine with it. Even when my opponent is not reciprocating, I'm still fine with it because I like making them feel bad. I played a Harlequin player in Toledo who just didn't tell me about the minus range to shoot, the minus 6 inches to shoot, and didn't say anything, didn't allow for any takebacks, told me it was a tournament. I basically just called him a gotcha player, let him take back whatever he wanted. I left it there, and then the same player did the same thing to my friend Kramer in the Michigan tournament. The exact same thing. Did not talk about the minus 6. Did not let him know. Kramer didn't know. Moved this whole army. It was like, I didn't know you have that ability. He's like, well, you should know. And it's total gotcha move. I hate that kind of stuff. I hate those kind of players. Not good for the community. Not good for the game. And doesn't prove you're a good general. If you want to take back something, go ahead. I don't care. I'm going to still beat you.
In my mind, there are so few takebacks that actually affect the end result that I see no reason to deny them. It only causes strife or conflict, and it causes me to have a worse game when I'm not having that good interaction with my opponent.
Yeah.
But I'm really happy to play no takebacks. In fact, when I'm prepping for like the WTC and things of that ilk, where I know takebacks are unlikely to happen or can be removed at any time, I will play with no takebacks in all my
Burned
practice
hand learns
games.
best. I mean, it absolutely
Exactly.
does. I mean,
No
I've got
takebacks.
this too, but we are out of time. That is the last second of the inaugural Fuego Rapido. And no telling if we'll have it named that. Oh, we might have sound effects. I don't know. Depends if we get some good sound effects. Yeah. We might not change the name. We are also at the end of the show. I don't know if we have anything we'd like to close out with, but this has been a good discussion. I know we kind of jumped around. I know we only had one major event to cover this weekend, and we need some, now that we've got the FAQ, the a few different codexes entering into the mix. I think next week is going to be very exciting.
Yeah, the next couple of weeks in the lead up to Lone Star is going to be really interesting to see what the meta coalesces into. And man, the predictions for that are going to be really spicy because that will be the first major where we possibly have 3 superpowered codexes in contention for the top spot. What are people going to bring? What are they going to take? How are they going to mold to contest against each other? We saw this a lot in the last couple of 3 months. We saw things like White Scars, Harlequins, Demons all jostling at different times for top spot. And that's probably in Australia as well. Speaking from an Australian point of view, could be different elsewhere. All jostling to see whose cuisine will reign supreme. Chairman Karga slap. It will be really interesting to see. Allan, what do you think?
I mean, I'd be shocked to see Mechanicum not be well represented there to some degree. It's probably going to be, in my opinion, the most powerful codex when that event kicks off. So I'm interested to see if there's a spike there. Again, there are barriers for that army. There's a cost barrier. There's a likeness of the army. I know a lot of people just say like they just don't like admech. So we'll see what happens. I'm curious.
I can't believe that. I can't believe that.
It's a thing, Paul. People don't like admech and people don't like Death Guard. I hear it all the time. I don't know why.
You don't like Death Guard.
I love Death Guard. I love Nurgle.
I'm kidding. Gentlemen, thanks a lot for joining me and having this great discussion and running down these tournaments. If you're new to just watching us do this or listening to us do this, we're going to do it each and every week. Thanks to everyone who participated in the chat. Thanks for Frontline Gaming for putting this together. Thanks to Richard Hughes behind the scenes, doing all this work and stuff for us. Really appreciate that. See y'all next week.
Night, guys. Take care.